What's up guys? Welcome to my patio kitchen. I think I finally figured that one out. Today we're gonna make a really fun recipe, and it's vegetarian. For all those of you guys who don't eat meat, I'm doing a vegetarian episode, but you could also add meat in there, so I guess it's vegetarian optional. But the name of this dish is called Chinese Chive pan-fried dumplings, or 韭菜盒子. This is a very traditional Chinese dish. Every single place you'll find any dumpling, they'll have this, and a lot of times it's kind of considered a breakfast food. And even though it doesn't have any meat in there, I promise you this thing is spectacular. Another thing I want to say is that this recipe, like most of my recipes, super easy. Trust me, like I always say, if I can do it, you can definitely do it. Let's get started. First of all, let's mix our dough. And mixing dough when it comes to Chinese dishes, unless you're making like something like baozi or something like a bun, the ratio of dough to water is pretty much the same. It's about 2 cups of dough to 1 cup of water. Stir that in slowly, pour a little bit. Stir only in one direction, guys. I've said this many times, stir only in one direction. And guys, just gauge it for yourself as well. If you feel like your dough is a little too wet, add some more flour. If you feel like it's still too powdery, add some more water. But around 1 cup is what you're gonna need. Right now it feels good. And we're gonna knead this for about 10 minutes and get to the point where there's really not much dough sticking to the pan. The ball of dough itself becomes really smooth and there's not much dough sticking onto your hands. The Chinese 3 clean method. There you go, pan's pretty clean. Cover it up and just let it sleep for about half an hour. Now, just because our dough is taking a rest, we can't, because we gotta prepare the ingredients that go inside the dough. First thing you'll need is about a cup of rice noodles, which will typically come in dry form. And we're just gonna soak that in warm water. Next, we're gonna dice up everything else. Of course, this dish is called Chinese Chive pan-fried dumplings. We're gonna need a lot of chives, 2 cups worth of chives. And dice everything up as fine as you can. And just set it aside. And the recipe today is gonna make about 8 of these dumplings. And these are good sized dumplings. Next up, moving to the eggs. 3 eggs, crack them, we're gonna scramble them. Just a tiny dash of salt. You don't want any gooiness. You want to make sure this egg is cooked. You don't want your eggs to run away from you. After it's done, set it aside. Next up, we're going to take some dry shrimp. In Chinese, this is called Tsp, which is shrimp skin. You can find these in almost every single Chinese supermarket. And if you don't have access to a Chinese supermarket, then I'll try to find this on Amazon for you guys. This is an ingredient we use a lot in Chinese cooking. We use it a lot in soups. We use it a lot in dumplings. It's great. It's also great if you wake up one day and you want to eat like 100 shrimps, and this is how you do it. We're going to fry them up because right now they've just been kind of sitting there all dried up. They need to wake up. They need to feel vibrant. And we're gonna do that with some rice wine. There you go. Just a teaspoon of the cooking wine, just to wake these guys up a little bit. That smells good. As soon as that wine goes in, you can smell the shrimp, and it is a glorious aroma. Don't overdo it. As soon as the wine goes in, cook it for another 30 seconds to a minute, take it off the fire. We're just trying to bring out the flavor of these. We're not trying to make it crispy. We're not trying to burn it. Now let's dice everything up. Eggs. Remember, this has got to fit inside a dumpling. Again, this is not a small dumpling, but still, you want your ingredients to integrate well together. That means sharing space. And just chop it up pretty finely. Next, take the little shrimpies, give them a nice chop. All right, done with that, add it to the eggs. Take your rice noodles that has been cooking for a while and make sure to just squeeze it as dry as possible, because you don't want the inside of your dumplings to be watery. Use a paper towel and just get some of that water out of there, because when the inside of your dumpling is watery, it's not good. You can have a soggy dumpling. Nobody wants a soggy dumpling. I'm gonna chop this up as well. Some chive fried dumplings don't have rice noodles. Some chive fried dumplings don't have the little shrimpies. I like it with both. I mean, you could even add some pork if you want. The only thing that you can't add is garlic, because the chive itself is gonna have a garlicky flavor, and if you add garlic, it's gonna mask that. The final ingredient is, of course, the chives. This is all chopped up. I'm gonna take about 2 cups of this and we're gonna add it in with the ingredients. This recipe is extremely customizable because all the ingredients, they're cooked. So when you're seasoning it, you can actually taste as you season. So you can adjust it for your own preference. You can make it as salty as you want. You can make it as peppery as you want. I would recommend making it slightly more flavorful because remember, this is inside a dumpling wrapper and that's really not gonna have any flavor to it. So let's talk about what goes into this. Chinese white pepper. This is really important. I love this flavor in my chive dumplings. It's really distinct, very, very peppery. So okay, about a half a teaspoon of this. So next up, salt. I would start with about a half a teaspoon of salt and just work my way up, and then you guys can see what your preference is. This is the ingredient that binds everything together, because right now it's just a bunch of dry ingredients in here. What I love about the sesame oil is that, first of all, it gives it a beautiful fragrance. You want to make sure all your chive pieces has touched this, because one thing you don't want to have happen is have your chives leak too much water when it's being cooked inside the dumpling. So when it's covered in the oil, that's not going to occur. So I like to add a couple of teaspoons of sesame oil. And the last thing I'm adding is just about a teaspoon of oyster sauce, just to give it some depth. And again, like I said, this is all cooked ingredients, so go ahead and give it a taste. That's great. I'm just gonna add a little more pepper for myself because I'm the cook. If you're the cook, you're the driver. A little more sesame oil for me. Love sesame oil in this. Now, if you want, like I mentioned before, you could add some pork in here, but Chinese people really like this for the fresh chive taste, so I'm not gonna mess with it too much. Now, we're gonna set this aside and we're gonna roll out our dough. I think our dough's rested enough. Let's wake it up. Yeah, it's good. It's ready to go. Just knead it a couple more times, a little bit more, and we're gonna roll it out into a long roll. You can make your dumplings as big as you want or as tiny as you want. You can make it even like regular sized dumpling if you want, but traditional Chinese pan-fried dumplings, they're like this big. And this dough should make about 7 to 8. All right, I'm gonna cut it into 7 pieces. Take a piece of dough, flatten it, and we're gonna try to make this into a nice circle. Now, the trick to doing this is what I like to do is kind of like when I'm making my bun, I just hold one side of it. I'm gonna use my rolling pin and I just roll it, then I spin, roll it and I spin, roll it and I spin. And this will give me a fairly round shape because I'm not really good at rolling things into perfectly circular shapes because I'm just not that good at symmetry. And you wanna roll this out fairly thin because there's nothing worse than a dumpling with thick skin. If it's not a perfect circle, it's okay, don't worry about it. Here's the thing, how much filling should you put into this dough? You should put as much as you can. As long as you can close this dough up, that's your limit because there's no meat in here. The flavors are fairly light and the dough has really no flavoring at all. So it all depends on this. And I usually will add 3 big spoonfuls to mine. I'm gonna add a little more. I'm gonna push the envelope. I'm gonna push the dough-velope. There you go. Here's how to fold it and make it look pretty. First step, make it like a blanket and just cover the dough end to end like a dumpling, like that. And we're just gonna match the edges and just squeeze down and seal it up. It's not too bad, right? You thought this was gonna be hard. I don't do anything that's hard because I can't do it. And this thing has a lot of, see that? That's all beautiful filling right there. And push it in a little bit, so give yourself like a little edge right here. You see that? Little edge. My filling starts from over here. And the reason we're doing this is because now we're gonna make it pretty. And to make it pretty is really simple. Really, really simple. I'm gonna teach you how to do it. Now, take the edge and put your finger right next to it. Push down your finger, fold the dough to your finger. Step 1. Now, move your finger a little more and take the edge of this dough and fold it to your finger. Do it again. Edge of the dough to your finger. Do it again. Edge of the dough to your finger. You don't have to be so precise with this. You really don't. And I'm not being that right now. I'm not. I'm just putting my finger down, taking the edge, putting it over here. Edge over here. That's it. That is a chive dumpling. Well, before we cooked it. And look, it's pretty. And it's gonna be prettier after we cook it because it's gonna get all tanned and stuff. It looks like an empanada, right? It's like a Chinese empanada. Let's do a couple more. 1 spoonful, 2 spoonful, 3. Let's do a little more. There we go. All right, put it to sleep. Press the 2 ends together. Make that into a giant dumpling. I mean, you went through all this trouble already, right? You might as well make it pretty. In Chinese, we call this a hua bar or flower edge, like a flower. You know, so you can give this to your loved ones and be like, hey, I made you a beautiful flower. Trust me, he or she will like this way more than the kind that dies after a few days. This will be with you forever. Now we're ready to cook. It's really important to remember, you gotta cook on medium heat. High heat, you're gonna burn this. Little cooking oil, not too much, about a tablespoon. Gently put your beautiful little dumpling in, and the size will match your wok. You want this to be on the edge so it cooks more. And it's gonna cook fairly quickly, about 2 to 3 minutes on each side, because remember, everything inside the dough is already cooked. So you're really only cooking the dough. I think this is ready to flip. Yep, look at that. While we're waiting for this, let's make our dipping sauce really quick. Really simple, a little bit of soy sauce, tablespoon, Chinese vinegar, a couple teaspoons of that, and of course my signature hot oil and some sesame oil. Honestly, it probably won't even really need a dipping sauce, but I like it with dipping sauce because these dumplings, they sometimes tend to get a little dry. That's the golden color we're looking for. And we're just gonna cook it on the other side for about 30 more seconds. Then we're gonna make these things stand up. I mean, they've been laying down all day. Stand it up and let it cook on the bottom. And I'm gonna face this towards the edge edge of the pan so the edge of the dough cooks. There you go. Chinese chive pan-fried dumplings. Wait till you see the inside. It definitely passes the smell test. I can't wait to eat you. Here they are, piping hot, fresh from the pan. Look at that. That is beautiful, and I promise you, it's gonna taste even better. Listen to this. Oh yeah. You hear that crunch? Smells magnificent. No sauce. I rarely love something that doesn't have meat in there, unless it's like, you know, ice cream. Love this. Really peppery, just so I like it. You guys don't have to do nearly as much pepper as I did, but you really like it peppery. Look how thin the skin is. Ridiculously thin. It's crunchy on the outside, soft and tender. This is almost like it's sitting inside a scallion pancake. The chive flavor is just so nice. Fresh, it's garlicky, everything is seasoned so nicely. It's not like an overly flavorful food item. That's why I made some dipping sauce. You can definitely eat this on its own already, but dipping sauce? That dipping sauce is great too. Trust me, this is a really easy thing to make. It looks pretty, it's delicious. It looks like you actually need to know what you're doing to make this, but you really don't. So make some of this, dip it in my hot oil. I mean, all the foods I teach you guys to make, they all work together. As always, everything I use today, all the ingredients, all the cookware is listed in my description box below. Guys, try this out, you will not regret it. I'm a meatitarian, but this is one of my favorite vegetarian recipes of all time. It's a dumpling. How do you not love a dumpling? Try it, let me know how you like it. Thank you all so much for watching, and until we cook again, I'll see you later. I gotta do this one more time. This is so ridiculously good.